Well, in the Middle East, one of the biggest challenges facing the Trump administration is the war in Syria. But the US did not send a delegation to talks that have just wrapped up in Kazakhstan. Hosts, Turkey and Russia, along with Iran, issued a joint statement saying a mechanism has been set up to monitor and bolster a shaky month-long ceasefire. It also looks ahead to talks in Geneva in February. But the armed opposition objects to Iran's involvement and has put forward its own proposal. With more details, CNN's senior international correspondent Ben Wiedemann joins us now from Istanbul. Great to have you with us, Ben. Russia, of course, supports the Assad government and has taken the lead in these talks, agreeing with Turkey and Iran to enforce this ceasefire. How is it playing out?
Well, so far, the ceasefire, which went into effect on the 30th of December, has been shaky at best. There's been particularly a lot of fighting in the Wadi Barada area, which is just outside of Damascus, near the source of drinking water for the capital. And there we've seen the involvement of the militia of Hezbollah, particularly actively involved. But certainly, by and large, this is the third ceasefire that's gone into effect in Syria in recent years. It's shaky at best, as I said, but certainly it seems that the Russians are eager to see it stay in place, to be strengthened. Now, it's interesting that this meeting in Kazakhstan involved Russia, Iran, and Turkey, who have all been very involved in the Syrian conflict. Of course, Russia became actively militarily involved in September of 2015 when it sent troops and its air force there to hit rebel targets, although they said they were hitting terrorist targets. Now, what we heard from Astana, from these talks, was that in the final statement, all those three parties agreed that there's no military solution to the Syrian conflict. But what we've seen, in effect, with the involvement of Russia and Iran in this conflict, they have, in a sense, pulled off a military solution to the conflict. The rebels are in disarray. We saw that the Ahrar al-Shem, one of the most powerful rebel factions, did not participate. It declined to participate. Absent from the talks was also Jabhat al-Nusra, which has renamed itself. It, of course, is the affiliate of Al-Qaeda in Syria. And it renamed itself Jabhat Fatah al-Sham, and obviously missing also is ISIS as well. But at the end of the day, what we've seen is that whatever comes out of this conference and the meeting in February in Geneva, that yes, there's no military solution, but a political solution has come out of the barrel of a gun. Linda?
And Ben, the other notable absent, of course, was any sort of US delegation. They only had the US ambassador there as an observer. Where does the US, under a Trump administration, figure in the future of this conflict?
Well, I think what we saw in Kazakhstan at these talks was the abdication of the United States under the Obama administration of an active role in Syria. The United States, along with Turkey and their Gulf allies, spent around $20 billion funding a rebel effort that has ultimately failed. Now, what we've seen from the Trump administration, what we've heard from the Trump administration, is that it wants to cooperate with Russia when it comes to defeating terrorism. And certainly ISIS is terrorism in Syria, but it depends who you define as a terrorist. The Russians consider some of the organizations, Turkey, the United States, and the Gulf states, supported as terrorist organizations. But we may see a warming of relations between Washington and Moscow, and it may be played out in Syria.
All right, we will be watching it closely, and we thank you for your analysis on the ground. Ben Wiedemann, thank you. Well, still to come, Iran's oil sector is booming, but could President Trump threaten that recovery? We're live to Tehran next.